The Andaman and Nicobar Islands spread over nearly 600 miles of sea in the Bay of Bengal between Cape Negrius in Burma and the Indonesian island of Sumatra is a chain of some 300 islands known as the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, also called as the Bay Islands. The islands are situated within a quadrangle formed by 10 degrees north and at 14 degrees north latitude and 92 east and 94 east longitude. The total area of the islands is 8,249 square kilometers, of which the area of the Andaman group alone is 6,408 square kilometers. The Andaman group is constituted by over 200 islands and islets, while the Nicobar group consists of some 200 odd islands. The distance between Calcutta and Port Blair is 1,302 kilometers. From Delhi to Port Blair, it is 2,496 kilometers. From Chennai to Port Blair, it is 1,362 kilometers. The present document is prepared for the preservation of the culture of the Great Andamanese tribe. The photographs and the text are drawn from various sources available from the books, articles, documents of AAJVS, Cellular Jail, and from Google, ASA Library, and my personal collections. I am greatly thankful to all the individuals and institutions. Strait Island is an island of Andaman Islands. It belongs to the North and Middle Andaman Administrative District, part of the Indian Union Territory of Andaman. The island is lying 63 kilometers north from Port Blair. Strait Island is a tribal reservation, the reservation for the Great Andamanese, one of the indigenous people of the Andaman Islands. It was built and is managed by the Andaman administration. The Great Andamanese settlement was constructed with concrete houses in rows. Welfare personnel and police quarters. There is a school for children and dispensary for primary health care. There is a lighthouse at the top of the tallest hill on the island. The population at the 2011 census was 54, living in 15 households from the Port Blair harbor. There is a bi-weekly ferry service which is the only mode of conveyance available to go to Strait Island. Until the late 18th century, the Andamanese culture, language and genetics were preserved from outside influences by their fierce reaction to visitors, which include killing any shipwrecked foreigners and by the remoteness of the islands. The various tribes and their mutually unintelligible languages thus are believed to have evolved on their own over a millennia. A clear history of the Andaman and Nicobar Islands can be had only from a British survey of these islands conducted in 1777. The Andaman Nicobar Islands remained the abode of the Negroes and the Mongoloid respectively, who occupied the islands for centuries. These islands remained secluded from the mainland till the end of the 18th century when people from the outside world first arrived. The history of the Andaman and Nicobar Islands can be divided into three periods, such as the British regime, that is a period of foreign intrusion and settlement. Second one is Japanese regime. Third one is the post-independence period. The history of the British in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands began in 1788 when Lord Cornwallis, the then Governor General of India, thought of colonizing the islands and instructed Lieutenant Archibald Blair and Colebrook The first settlements was found in 1789 on the Chatham Island. After the Great Revolt in 1857, the British government thought of establishing a penal settlement here. In March 1858, the first penal settlement was established with 200 prisoners, mostly rebels from the Indian Army. The foundation of the famous cellular jail was laid in 1896. The building was completed in 1906. World War II brought another series of changes in the life of the Andamans. During the war, the Japanese occupied Andamans on March 21, 1942 and kept the region under their effective control till October 8, 1945. The Andaman and Nicobar Islands, together with the rest of India, became independent on August 15, 1947. The Bengalis are the major population group which came to the Andamans after the independence. They came as settlers under the government rehabilitation scheme, which started as early as 1949 and continued till the 1970s. All these groups migrated to the Andamans from Bangladesh. The Bengalis are primarily distributed in the different districts of the North, Middle and South Andamans. Others from different parts of mainland followed in 1970, 1974, 1977, 1979 and 1980. These settlers include, among others, such as Punjabis, Marathis, Malayalis, Telugu and Tamilians. In the 2nd century, the Andaman and Nicobar Islands were located in the maps prepared by the Greek astronomer, mathematician and geographer Claudius Ptolemaeus, which possibly is the earliest reference to these islands. The early history of the Nicobar is not well known. Although these islands were familiar to traders in ancient times, the islands being situated close to the trade route to the Far East. Though little is known about Portuguese activities in these islands, it is evident that the Portuguese missionaries started preaching Christianity among the islanders. The Nicobarese language also reflects a few Portuguese words. F. J. Mount, in his work The Andaman Islanders, published in 1863, gives a general description of the different islands, encounters with the tribals, and expedition notes. Apart from this, he has given a detailed description of the characteristic features of the tribals. While writing, he mentions that in these islands, man was probably still in the same condition in which he was when they were first settled, simple and primitive. Their language was barely sufficient for the expression of their few simple wants. Totally ignorant of agriculture, they have no means of making provision for the future and must be satisfied with fruits and herbs, and as they yet spontaneously produce, and which the shellfishes they pick up and on the shore. Their habitation are of that simple construction and constantly moving from place to place. History of our relations with the Andamanis is one of the important documents which has prepared by M.E. Portman. This is a basic report which you can observe here. He has talked about the Great Andamanis, Wongis and the Shonpens of Great Nicobar Island also. Portman, in his work, given information on various expeditions which he has made and official instructions, history and a brief account of traditional norms, behavior and the settlements of the tribes in Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Portman extensively worked among the South Andaman group of tribes, especially Great Andamanese tribes. Edward Harris Mann is one of the important ethnographer who has written on the tribes of Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Here you can see the Edward Harris Mann, first published in 1883. Its title as The Aboriginal Inhabitants of Andaman Islands. Here, he has given a detailed account of these tribals, ethnography. That is, he has given about the magic and witchcraft, which is very important to know, the tribal distribution and the tribal community, the nomadism, habitation and adoption relationships, the hunting and fishing ways and warfare. Baranclas visited Andaman and Nicobar Islands in the year 1901. He has written a document in the Andaman and Nicobars where he has given the description of the flora, fauna and ethnology of the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Alfred Radcliffe Brown published a book, The Andaman Islanders, in 1922. This book was based upon fieldwork carried out by Radcliffe Brown in the Andaman Islands during the years 1906 to 1908. The text contains detailed information on various aspects of the indigenous cultures found in these islands, with analysis of social organization, ceremonial customs, myths, legends, and religious beliefs. Illustrative figures are incorporated throughout, including numerous photographs and appendices are provided on language and technology. This book will be value to anyone with an interest in Radcliffe Brown, the Andaman Islands, and the development of anthropology. 31, which has been prepared by MCC Bonington. He is one of the British administrator, worked as superintendent of census operation. His work, which is published in 1932, which became a basic book for all the anthropologists. M.B. Portman has documented on Andamanese languages, and his book, Manual of the Andaman Languages, very important one. The Census of India 1921 by Lewis gives us the statistical figures and also the flora fauna of Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Suresh Vaidya has given an important document entitled as The Islands of the Marigold Sun. The Land and the People of Andamans by Sain is an important book which gives us the details of geographical and socio-economical conditions of the Andaman Islands. The most important works on Andaman Islands are Bonington 1932, Lewis 1932, Das 1937, Changappa 1951, Sain in 1962, Cipriani in 1966, Pandit 1975, Chakravarti 1977, Datta 1974 and Naidu 1994. By the late 18th century, when the British settled on Great Andaman, the Great Andamanis were divided into 10 main tribes with distinct languages, each counting between 200 and 700 individuals. The Great Andaman Islands run in a north-south line for some 350 kilometers but are only some 50 kilometers wide at its widest extent. The Great Andamanis were in reality not one but 10 tribes with separate localities and dialects. The Great Andaman is divided into two subdivisions, that is, Northern Group and Southern Group. The Northern subgroup of Andamanis are also called as Yarava. They include 4 groups such as Aka Keri or Keri. Second one is Aka Kora or Kora. Third one is Aka Bo or Bo. Fourth one is Aka Jeru. The Great Andamanis inhabiting in southern part of Andaman and Nicobar Islands are also called as Bojigyab. They include 6 groups such as Aka or Keda. Second one is Aka or Kol. Third one is Woko or Joey. Third one is A or Pusikawar. Fifth one is Aka or Bale. And second one is Aka or Bia. The tribes were further split into smaller units called as septs or local groups and families, and also between shore dwellers, Ayato, and forest dwellers or Eri Metago. All these different tribes were lumped together by the British administrators and outsiders in a broader group named Great Andamanese, later to be distinguished from the Jarwa, the Wongi, and the Sentinelese. When the British established a permanent settlement and penal colony in Andaman Islands in the year 1860, the population was estimated at 3,500 individuals. By 1901, only 625 Great Andamanese were left, and following census reported steadily declined numbers: 455 in 1911, 207 in 1921, 19 in 1931. One extract counted around 100 individuals in 1927. In 1949, the surviving Great Andamanese were relocated to a reservation on Bluff Island in an attempt to protect them from diseases and other threats. In 1951, after independence, their number had shrunk to about 25, mostly from the northern tribes. They became extinct in the mid 20th century but had a few admixed individuals, which went to an all-time low of only 19 individuals in 1961. Their number have slowly increased since then to 24 in 1971, 26 in 1981, 45 in 1991, and 43 in 2001. There were about 50 individuals living in Strait Island in 2006 and 52 individuals in January 2010, and presently 54 individuals are living. Today, only Jainu remain in significant number. The Kari, Kora, and Pusikwar groups also identify themselves as Jeru. However, the cultural linguistics identities of the individual tribes have largely been lost. Their numbers now speak mostly Hindi or a mixture of Hindi and other languages. The Great Andamanese language, or an extinct language family once spoken by the Great Andamanese people of the Andaman Islands in the Indian Ocean. Portman, while discussing on the languages, mentions that Great Andamanese speaking languages that bore very little resemblance to the Wongi and Jarwa. The last fluent speaker of what may have been a Creole based on Aka Jeru. Since then, their numbers have rebounded somewhat, reaching 52 by 2010. The last known speaker of the Bo language died in 2010 at the age of 85. About half of the population now speak what may be considered a new language of the Great Andamanese family, based mainly on Aka Jeru. Some scholars have called this modified version present Great Andamanese. The Great Andamanese language or agglutinative languages with an extensive prefix and suffix system. The Great Andamanese are classified by anthropologists as one of the Negrito people. which also include the other three aboriginal groups of the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, such as Wongi, Jarwa, and Sentinelese. The Andaman Negroes are thought to be the first inhabitants of the islands, having immigrated from the mainland tens of thousands of years ago. Until the late 18th century, the Andamanese people were preserved from outside influences by their fierce rejection of contacts and by the remoteness of the islands. Andamanis are grouped together by phenotype features. Three physical features that distinguish the Andaman Islanders include skin color, hair, and structure. Those of the Andaman Islands have dark skin, are short in stature, and have frizzy hair. These physical features are shared with the Melanesians. The frizzy hair is considered polygenic because it is the one phenotype feature that has not changed. The skin color and stature can vary within a population. Therefore, hair characterization is very important in identifying the Andaman Islanders. The stature of the people within the population has changed over time. A relatively short time, scientists believe the variation in stature can be contributed to about 200 gene loci that influence height. Similarly, variation in skin color can be contributed to the great number of gene loci that affect the expression of the phenotype. The isolation of the Andamanese people is what has kept the variation in phenotype within the population low. The craniometric characters of the Andamanese are almost the same as those of South Asians. Therefore, South Asian and Andamanese people are most easily distinguished on the basis of stature, skin color, and hair. While discussing racial affinity of the Great Andamanese with other populations, Ratcliffe Brown in 1992 mentions that it followed, therefore, that they might represent the Negrito race in its pristine state and perhaps hold important clues to human ancestry in general. Ratcliffe Brown did his fieldwork in the Andamans from 1906 to 1908. He was the first anthropologist to make a clear distinction between the Great Andaman group, including all the Great Andaman tribes except Jarwa, and the Little Andaman group, which includes the Wongi of Little Andaman, the Jarwa of South Andaman, and the Sentinelese on North Sentinel Island. Great Andaman is earlier a group of families consisting of 40 to 50 persons used to form a social division which Ratcliffe Brown called the local group, a structure breaking down from the beginning of the century. They lived by hunting, fishing, and food gathering, now supplemented by monthly provisions of food and clothes supplied free of cost by the Andamajati Vikas Samiti. Today they eat rice, dal, chapati, and other food materials. They can cook food with the ingredients of spices. At times, they still go in for hunting and gathering. Actually, their traditional food items are fish, dugong, turtle eggs, crabs, roots, and tubers. They also eat pork, Andaman water monitor lizard, etc. As aquatic people, they relish octopus, mollusks taken out from shell marine animals like turban shell, scorpion shell, sundial, helmet, and screw shells, besides various types of crabs and fish. Although the Great Andamanese on Strait Island still obtain some of their diet from hunting, fishing, and gathering, they now consume rice and other Indian food and are dependent on support of the Andaman Adimijati Vikas Samiti. They now practice horticulture and also have established small poultry farms. The Great Andamanese population was large, estimated about 3,000 to 3,500 individuals till 1859. The contact with the British led the spread of new diseases like bronchitis, syphilis, measles, etc., and the tribe gradually lost its former territorial rights. Escaped convicts from cellular jail and naval staff transmitted syphilis to Aboriginal women, and the consumption of opium caused a lower birth rate. The outbreak of measles and smallpox took away during 1877 about half of the total number of tribals of South Andaman who had survived the Battle of Aberdeen in 1859. The Andamanis fought and resisted the settlement for many years, living as they had been used to on these islands for ages. The Battle of Aberdeen, May 1859, was probably the worst case of genocide in the British colonial history of tribal encounters. A veritable slaughter caused a sudden decline in the number of young male Great Andamanis. The death of the young Great Andamanis resulted in a decline of population as they constituted the core of the reproductive age group. The consequences was a long-lasting impact on the entire population who could never make up the loss. The British set up the Andamanis homes where the Andamanis were kept and provided medicines and free rations such as sugar, rice, tea and tobacco. Soon the Andamanis were overtaken by alien diseases with outbreaks of syphilis and measles in 1870 and 1877. Measles alone wiped out half of them. Their population started diminishing sharply from 3,500 individuals in the year 1858 to 2,000 individuals in 1888 and 625 individuals in 1901. Their numbers kept dwindling. 405 individuals in 1911 and 2009 individuals in 1921 and 90 individuals in 1931. After independence in the year 1947, a large number of refugees and migrants were also sent to the Andamans for resettlement, which pushed the tribal community to the margins. In 1949, the entire community was relocated to the Tiny Bluff Island, after which their population declined to 23 in the year 1951 and reached an all-time low of 19 in 1961. In the year 1901, the number was reduced to only 625 individuals. In the year 1961, to a mere 19 individuals. In the year 1975, they raised to 23 individuals. In the year 1987, again further raised to 28 individuals, and in 1996, the total population was 37 individuals after the inhabiting in the Strait Island. Now, let us have the experiences of Dr. A. Justin, who is head of the Institution of Anthropological Survey of India in Port Blair, and he was born here and brought up here. He has working since last 3 decades on the aborigines of Andaman and Nicobar Islands. The population size of the Great Andamanis is coming down rapidly. Now it came back to 38 when I have written this book, when I had done the field work. The population is fluctuating, going up and down and so on. Now I wanted to have your opinion or why the population issues associated with the Great Andamanis tribe.
It's true that it has been drastically reduced. Today there are 55 Great Andamanis, and of those 55, there are 4 outsiders who have had married the Great Andamanis. Now it's a serious problem where they would go for marriage challenge. They are not ready to marry with their own nearest kid and kin. So those individuals like Mio and the other individual, Luke, has established marriage alliances with outsiders, and they are hopefully again, so that they may able to increase their numbers. The literacy rate among the Great Andamanis is, of course, coming into light. Sizable numbers of their children are studying in Vivekananda Kendriya Vidyalaya, and in the Class 10 Central Board of Secondary Education, 2 Great Andamanis have passed Class 10 examination. One of the Great Andamanis boys is studying in IIT Donikans. So this is a kind of constructive path that they have taken themselves on the very less road to mainstreaming themselves. But the other day, this Li Ju was telling, Li Ju is the daughter of the then chief of the tribe, and she was telling, look, our ancestors' land were used taken away, and we have been removed from our ancestral land to the new small island where availability of varieties of roots,
Resources.
and other food resources are not as compared to the situation as imported elsewhere. So this is one kind of strong kind of statement of Li Ju, wherein she had reminisced how the ancestral lands in the present, say let us say Port Blair Township, had been taken away from them, and then, but perhaps it was a rehabilitation program with the purpose to segregate them so that any unwarranted interaction with outside.
Be able to suggest certain models or policies which can help to conserve this human population.
Well, it's a very pertinent question. To my mind, perhaps the kind of leadership qualities that are lacking among the individual. As a tribal community per se, they have a feeling that they should survive. But what the air administration is doing is another thing, and the amic view at times is getting different colors at different levels, and they themselves are unable to lead their own communities where they should go, which direction and how to. The other day I remember when we were housed in the then timber structure building at supply line, the then chief Chiragi met me and said, Justin, one day people from Africa may come and inquire the Andaman and Nicobar administration that who are the original people and why they have not been accommodated in most of the responsible position in the administration. Who would be responsible for this? We want our children to occupy some of the responsible positions in the Andaman and Nicobar administration. That was a strong feeling, but it seems they are unable to carry their own aspiration. And the kind of misleading element that is attributed to the kind of interaction with outsider is taking them to a very destructive.
His father was the head of that Great Andamanis. He used to command, he used to control the entire society among the Great Andamanis, and also used to get all the facilities done from the administrators from the AHIVS. After his father's death, nobody bothers to go there straight away. So now he is living here in the Port Blair with his family. You can see daughter, son and wife, he himself. It's a small family. He is happily living, there is no doubt about it. But his whole heart is there in the straight island. I know. Huh? He wanted to go for straight island. But straight island, there is no electricity, there is no water, there is no house according to him. What he is telling. After tsunami, they have 2008. They have constructed the houses. Still, the houses not completed. Still, the houses not completed and handed over to them for their living. The school for namesake for up to 8th standard, but the name teacher goes over there. So all the students should be get educated in the Port Blair itself. They should have a educational complex. There should be a good institution from the central government. Then only these children can be educated. These children can be brought into the mainstream of the society. Otherwise, it is very difficult. As long as they are getting education in the Strait Island or Middle and South Andaman or in the Shompen Hut at Great Nicobar Island and Little Hut Bay by the Wongis or Shompens, they won't get educated because there is a school, no doubt, but there practically nothing is happening over there. So these children who are from the 5th year onwards, they should be brought into the mainstream of the society. Means we have to construct a hostels for these people, and there should be a central school micro level project which I have presented you in the Orissa educational system. Like that, these children can be educated. Otherwise, it is very difficult because education is also very expensive. He is getting 17,000 rupees from his pocket. He has to pay 7,000 rupees rent for his family maintenance. Again, education in the outside is very difficult. So there is a need. I think I request the policy makers and the planners to look into the aspect of this education. Is one of the primary thing under Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan or under the Social Justice Empowerment or Tribal Welfare Department from the central or the state government should take up education as a major one, and separate policy planning should be developed to accommodate all the children of these 5 primitive tribes in Port Blair. A school come hostel should be constructed especially for these people. The challenges that Great Andamanis face are more complex than they appear. One of the biggest challenges has been the large influx of people from mainland India. The population in the islands has grown sixfold from about 60,000 in 1960 to an estimated 380,000 today as per 2011 census. The construction of Andaman Trunk Road, rehabilitation of refugees in the island, expansion of the port, airbase, tourism, increase in urban growth are some of the factors which had direct impact on the depopulation of the tribal population. Another challenge has been the high infant mortality rate due to malnutrition. This is probably one of the foremost reasons for the continuous decline in their population. Today we have only 51 individuals left of the Great Andamanis who are living. The Andaman and Nicobar administration has taken all efforts to develop and protect the Great Andamanis, but it is becoming very difficult. This is because of the Great Andamanis are exposed to the modern civilization and are acculturated to a great extent in all spheres of life. So it is very difficult to limit their lifestyle. More than 50% of them are living in Port Blair town. Some of the options left to us to protect the Great Andamanis are: provide good basic infrastructure facilities in the Strait Island so that few of them can continue to stay back in the Strait Island, and provide good education, health care and employment opportunities these Great Andamanis people. Continue to providing free ration to all the Great Andamanis. A separate colony may be developed for the Great Andamanis in Port Blair. The need of the hour is to formulate a policy not by a non-anthropologist. An anthropologist should be given a free hand, whereas Jawaharlal Nehru has given a free hand to Warrior Elvin to bring into the policies. That is why he prepared Panchashil, which is Jawaharlal Nehru has accepted and implemented. That is why I request the Prime Minister of India and the President of India and the policy makers at different levels and administrators and bureaucrats, we have to take the concern and opinion of the anthropologist how to conserve the aborigines in India. That is very, very important. Otherwise, all these primitive tribes may extinct from the planet, if not today or in the times to come. We cannot see any of the aborigines, not only in Andaman Islands, but also in mainland. That is why I